I just got off a webinar and I want to share some gold with you that really has come from a number of docs that do frequent outside talks. In other words, this is like some marketing gurus that are doing consistent lectures weekly in their communities at corporations. And what the talk was is, how do you get around overbooking? Now the question's gold, the problem's big. The solution is right here. What I'll do is I'll bring 2 CAs to a talk and we stagger the times that they're allowed to sign people up. Now this might sound simplistic, but here's the reason why it's super important, and then I'll give you the procedure behind it. First impressions often lead to final decisions. First impressions when a new patient walks in your office oftentimes yields the final decision whether they decide to start care or not. In other words, if they're made to wait, they're sitting there for a long time, their first impression in your office, if it isn't good because you're overbooked, you may get them to say no to your care plans, not because of anything you said in your report of findings, but it's their experience. So let's go back to talks. When you're doing your corporate lunch and learns, you're doing 10-minute talks, I suggest you bring a CA. If you can do it, bring 2 CAs. And the question that came up from one of our CSK docs doing this webinar was, how do we get around overbooking in the practice? And quite simply, I'll have 1 CA that schedules on the hour, 3, 4, and 5 o'clock new patient appointments. My other CA, who I'll bring to my lectures, she will schedule at 3:30, 4:30, and 5:30. So 1 on the hour, 1 on the half hour. And the truth is, you can fill up your office in the afternoons with boatloads of new patients, but you need to stagger your start times and you've got to stick to it. So these CAs are not allowed to go off the hour. They can do 3 or 4, they can do 4 or 5, but not on the half hour if that's not their allotted times. Sounds small, but when you start to hit home runs doing these lectures, it gets really important that the first visit is an efficient visit, but it's also one that the patient experiences the Ritz-Carlton service, right? Your Ritz-Carlton experience for them. So again, we do a program called Corporate Skeleton Key where I teach docs how to book talks, and one of our CSK docs said, we're running into this a lot. We're getting new patients, but it's jamming up my systems. So when I listened to it, we just kind of reverse engineered where they were going wrong. If you want to learn how to do outside talks and pull dozens of new patients each time you speak, in other words, 10 or more is what we call rainmaker status. If you want to be a rainmaker from talks in your community, join us for our workshop, Speak to Attract Believers. It's an advanced workshop. We used to call it Art of the Close, but there's so many new parts to this thing. Get to this 2-day workshop. I will teach you how to do lunch and learns and close for action. And it's also the only place we teach 10-minute talks. Check out Speak to Attract Believers, and hopefully you have new patient problems like too many new patients, just like the docs we got off this webinar. I gotta go back to adjusting. I'm out of here.